group of board members over 25 years ago. That simple, far-reaching decision was to ensure that Phoebe resources would be directed towards assuring that Southwest Georgians throughout this region have access to high-quality primary care. Our board took stock, as sometimes you do, and said, you know, there's just not enough primary care physicians in this corner of the state, and we feel an obligation to do something not just for the current population, but for the populations that follow afterward. This is not just an Albany program or a Dougherty County program, but one that rather impacts all the citizens of about a 30-county region. And when you look at where the graduates are practicing, they're practicing throughout this region, and we're pleased with that. You should also be aware that this program is a unique partnership. Now think about partnership. Partnerships generally aren't one-sided. They tend to be balanced in many ways. And this partnership is with the General Assembly of the state of Georgia, who likewise years ago looked into the future and said we need to increase physician manpower in one of the fastest growing states in the country. And the General Assembly's wisdom and a few of their dollars were matched with Phoebe's similar vision, and in roughly a 50-50 partnership, we've been investing together to what now has graduated 100 residents, of which about 70% are practicing within 70 miles of Albany. And somewhere between 85 and 90% are practicing somewhere in the state of Georgia. I challenge any General Assemblyman to look for a better return on investment than the investment that's been made right here in Southwest Georgia. But that doesn't happen just because we wave our hand and want the General Assembly to do something. It happens because hardworking local representatives and state representatives do things. And in our audience, we have a whole host of folks who constantly are coming forward advocating for this corner of the state and for Georgia in general when it comes to the development of economic development, healthcare, and other related things. I'm going to list them here, and if I potentially miss one, please raise your hand. But Freddie Powell Sims, Senator Sims, raise your hand. Right there. Freddie, amongst all of her other free time, recently hosted a rural summit on healthcare up in Americas. Thank you for your leadership in bringing the Lieutenant Governor and focusing people on this issue. Also with us is Senator Greg Hurt, who's from the Americas area, just a little north of us, Senator. As many as you know, we're actively involved in Sumter County and regions north of there. We also have with us Representative Ed Reinders. I don't know if Representative Dukes made it here or not, but Representative Dukes is always involved. Representative Mike Chokas over here. Likewise, Representative Darrell Eaglin. And also coming from Bainbridge, Dr. Senator Dean Berg. And I'll dwell for just a second on Senator Berg, who, being a physician, has a very special opportunity to advocate for health issues. And you'll hear a little bit more from Dr. Frederick here in a minute about a new program here in South Georgia. And while the entire General Assembly participated, Senator Berg really took the flag and promoted the development of a training program in our neighbor town of Moultrie. And thank you very much for that work. All right, let's see if I've missed any other state General Assemblymen. Please let me know. Besides that, if we have any other elected officials in the audience, I want to take this moment to thank you as well as our other elected officials for the time and the sacrifices you make. You make many sacrifices, and we appreciate that. I know you guys are persistently in election cycle, and we appreciate you being part of representation here in Southwest Georgia. While we're at it, I mentioned our board of directors, and we do have a number of Phoebe's board of directors here in our audience, and if you will, please stand up so we can recognize you for your leadership. Dr. Crimmins, always good to see you here. For many of y'all know, Dr. Crimmins has been practicing medicine many, many years here and was one of the original members of our faculty. Many of y'all may not know that Dr. Crimmins is also a trained veterinarian. And as a family physician, nobody's more qualified to take care of the whole family. Two-legged and four-legged both, than Dr. Crimmins, but it's good to see you, Doc, and thank you for being here. I've encouraged all of the new residents, make sure they get a minute to hear 1 or 2 of your stories. Even if they may hear it twice, it always gets better. I mentioned Moultrie, and I would tell you that, like a lot of things, good partnerships come together. Dr. Frederick's going to share a little bit with that, but we're excited about some of the things that are happening in partnership with the state of Georgia and other areas here in southwest Georgia. At this moment, I also know that there are a lot of folks who have traveled here to support their children. And if you're a family member here in support of one of our new residents, please stand up so we can acknowledge you. You're going to hear from Dr. Frederick. We have a very diverse group of people. Geographically, their training backgrounds, it's really exciting to see the people who chose us while we were choosing them. Dr. Frederick will explain a little bit to you, but the matching program is very unique, and we're excited about the fact that so many people were interested in us, and we were able to rent it down to a very, very special group of people who have an interest in rural health care. They have an interest in primary care. I will also tell you they have an interest in what's known as an unopposed program. For those of you who might not know what that means, there aren't any other residencies programs here. The family medicine program is our residency. So they get to see a whole bunch of stuff that a lot of times they just might not see, or maybe 2 or 3 people behind. So it's part of how we designed it, it's part of what we do, and it's very, very special. Now, as we all know, good things don't happen without a good dose of good leadership. And we were blessed back in 2008 that we were able to coach Dr. George Frederick and his wife, who's a big part of that team, because the two of them recruit folks together. And he came down here from West by God, Virginia.
Go Ears!
And we sure glad he did. We knew he knew rural when he came from West Virginia. Just had a few more mountains in South Georgia. But he has got his medical degree from the University of Kentucky, completed his residency in Clarksburg, West Virginia, and eventually served as a program director there. He's worked in private practice, taught family medicine at the West Virginia University in Morgantown. And I will tell you, as he will, nobody does anything by himself, and one of the things that he's been able to do is develop an excellent team of faculty members who assist him in training these excellent residents. Please help me welcome Dr. George Frederick.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. This is the culmination of a very, very long process that begins in September when we begin the application process. And it's a long process, several months, involves lots and lots of interviews and lots of dinners and lunches and time spent evaluating, and we end up submitting a list of people to the computer, and those people submit their list to the computer, and the computer on the middle of March gives us a list and tells us who we have. And so today we get to announce our class. We're starting Monday, okay? And we'll spend the next 3 years training in becoming excellent family physicians. So with that, I'll read the name first, and when the person stands, and I'll tell a little bit about them. So the first person is Stephen Daniel. Stephen did his undergraduate work at Brigham Young in Provo, Utah. He then attended the American University of the Caribbean School of Medicine. He had rotated through here once. He was one of our opportunities. We had a medical student come through and rotate, and the only reason I mention that is if you go a couple of blocks over, you'll see the ground that's being broken for our new housing for students. And that's important for developing our pipeline to continue growing residency and in further positions. Thank you, Daniel. Next is Theresa Kowalski. Theresa did her undergraduate work at Princeton University, Princeton, New Jersey. She graduated from the University of Illinois College of Medicine in Rockford, Illinois. Glad to have you. Next we have Maria Kyriacou. I apologize to the parents if I didn't say that right. Maria did her undergraduate at Kennesaw State University, Kennesaw, Georgia. She attended the Mercer School of Medicine in Savannah. Is that right? Savannah campus. Mercer has two campuses, Savannah and Macon. Welcome, Maria. Next is Joseph Mariano. Joseph goes by J.R. Not Ewing. He's an undergraduate, was done at University of Hawaii. Also, he was born in Guam, so he went from Guam to Hawaii, and then he attended Ross University in Dominica. So he's been an island person for most of his life. So he's here on the mainland, and hopefully we can keep him here. Welcome, John. Next is Serena Miller. Serena did her undergraduate work at the University of South Florida, Tampa, and she attended Ross University in Dominica. Serena was also one of our students that rotated through here, and I forgot J.R. did too. I forgot to say that. Welcome. Laura, they had you out of order here. This is Laura DeSimone. Undergraduate was done at Mount Holyoke College in South Hadley, Massachusetts. She attended Rutgers Robert Wood Johnson Medical School in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Right? Now, I also want to make note that for several years now, Phoebe Putney and Colquitt Regional have been working to develop a rural training track for family medicine. I was asked to help with this process a couple of years ago. Mr. Warren asked me if it could be done. I said, well, we'll work on it, we'll do it. So it's been a lot of effort. We have been able to get this residency up and accredited. It is what we call rural track training. In rural track training, the residents have a mother hospital, which is where they'll be doing most of their work, but they also have another training site. We are the additional training site. These residents will be here for 6 to 7 months of their training. They'll spend several months getting acquainted with how we do things here. They'll get opportunities that they may not have opportunities for in Colquitt Regional. So I'm going to ask the three of them to stand, and I'm going to read their names. We have Michael McGon, we have Jessica Brumfield, and Marco Herr. Also like to say that their program director
us to work in partnership with our friends in Moultrie, it would have been a really uphill battle. There's so much details that go into the building of that. But my hat's off to the community leaders in Colquitt County, because it's a leap of faith. This is a program that you have to invest in and you have to stay committed to. And in this day and age, when the state of Georgia, still has access issues for a large part of the population, especially in the south half of the state of Georgia, it's a financial commitment that is one that has to stay the course. And I was in the audience down there, and I saw the look in the eyes of local community leaders about the importance of this program. So you folks are blessed to have a good group of community leaders that are going to stand by you there. We heard a little bit from everybody this morning, and I was pleased to hear our friend here from Moultrie talk about our little town in Louisiana. Back home in Arkansas, we call that Louisiana. But back in Louisiana, she said, we're so small, we don't even have a red light. We're fortunate to have a four-way stop. And that her interest in being involved, like many others, is to be able to give back and to provide care to her family and other people in rural settings. So we're looking forward to this partnership. That was interesting. The people in the Moultrie were all excited about these folks, but guess what? They're coming to Albany for a year. And we're glad to have you. We'll send them back, but we're glad y'all are here, and anything we can do to help, and God bless all of you. Well, I mentioned the fact that no good things really happen without great leadership, and our guest speaker this year, and each year we reach out to have somebody from somewhere else in the state that can come to Southwest Georgia, tell us a little bit about their perspective, but also for us to let them see how important this program is to Southwest Georgians, and the turnout kind of speaks for itself. So we kind of vote with our feet, and we showed up to make sure that Senator Hill, welcome Representative Dukes, good to see you. But someone who has served the state of Georgia for a quarter century, I mean, think about it, quarter century. What were you doing a quarter century ago, and what did you keep on doing for a quarter century? Now, I'm going to tell you, rumors have it that folks that serve in the General Assembly get a big salary, but that's just not so. We have what's known as a citizen legislature. These are folks, this is not necessarily their full-time job, but certainly it's something that they do full-time in their leadership. So Senator Jack Hill is certainly an outstanding public servant. He was elected to office in 1990. He is chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee. If you haven't figured that one out, it has a lot to do with where the state dollars end up. And while you weren't here a few weeks back when we had Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle here, he assured us that he would be in close consultation and look under every rock, along with your assistance, to potentially help us build this medical housing project we got going on over here. Among numerous political accomplishments, Senator Hill chaired a study committee that highlighted the plight of rural hospitals and led efforts to increase reimbursement rates through restructuring as critical access hospitals. He's no stranger to rural health. That's where he lives. That's where he grows up. One of his accomplishments that always comes to mind this time of year is he led the development of the Vidalia Onion Research Center. And who doesn't like a good slice of Vidalia onion hamburger this time of year? But rural Georgia is where he represents folks and has for many, many years. As Appropriations Chairman, he led the Senate in changing the budget process in our state to a results-based form through his efforts to base funding on clearly defined purposes and measurements. For those of y'all that don't keep up with the financial rating of the states in the country, this state enjoys a AAA credit rating. That happens because we have a dedicated, conservative fiscal approach that makes tough decisions, and people like Senator Hill make it to where the state of Georgia, when it goes out and borrows money, it does it at the very cheapest rate. So our hats off to you for that leadership. One other thing that I read as I was reading a little bit about him that I knew you would want to know. He has served for 33 years in the Georgia Air National Guard as a unit commander and as an inspector general. He retired in 2004 from the United States Air Force Reserves as a reserve forces officer assigned to the Selective Service System. His military service totaled 37 years. Senator Hill and his wife Ruth Ann, who I met sitting just right around the corner over here, a retired elementary school principal, are the parents of 3 children and 7 grandchildren, and are members of the Reedsville Baptist Church. Let's give a warm Southwest Georgia.
Thank y'all very much for letting me come over today and to be with you. When you mentioned about the one 4-way stop, it reminded me that we used to have 2 red lights in Reedsville where I live. Now we have 1 red light and 1 4-way stop. So I can understand that very much. Seeing the standing room only audience and all, I'm not sure how well you all can hear it. It reminded me of a story a visiting preacher told about a month ago in our church. He said, guest pastor was speaking and pastored on for a while, spoke on for a while, and was getting warmed up. And all of a sudden, from the back came a voice, "Preach louder." So he kind of ignored it and kept on preaching. And after a few minutes, the same voice came up, "Speak louder." And finally, the 3rd time he did it, he said, "Sir, you can't hear me back there?" He said, "Not a word." He said, at that time, 6 people got up and moved back there with him. So, if I see some of you all move up there, I'll know that they really can't hear us. I'm not much of a joke. All in the wrist, they tell me. I'm really honored to be asked to be here today and to salute you all on what is a wonderful day, not only for our residency students who are going to be here serving their residencies, but for all of you and for Southwest Georgia as well. It's a memorable day for all of us, and it's a great day for Phoebe Putney and virtually all of this area of the state. You know, geographically, in terms of square miles, Georgia is the largest state east of the Mississippi. And as we all know, who live out in the state, heavily weighted population-wise in the northern third of the state. Out here, this space out here where I live and you all live is the other Georgia. And it's a challenge in many ways, healthcare certainly being one of those challenges. So that's why the residency program here at Phoebe Putney is so important, not only for the delivery of healthcare today, but for the future of healthcare in Southwest Georgia and truly in all of rural Georgia as well. You know, the state of Georgia has been working on the number of residency slots to help meet the increasing numbers of physicians being graduated partially from our medical schools in the state, but also to meet the need for physicians in a growing state. Currently, Georgia is the 8th most populated state in the nation, and we're growing about 100,000 in population a year. So there is a need there beyond the need that we have in rural areas as well. State leaders, as far back as the mid-1980s, recognized the need for more primary care physicians statewide, and is certainly in Southwest Georgia as well. And this residency program at Phoebe Putney grew out of that effort back in the 80s. Lately, the state has been involved in a concentrated effort to increase the number of residencies statewide, increasing the total number of GME physicians in Georgia from 1995 in 2005 and 2006 to 2,514 approved physicians for 2015-16. That's an increase of 26%, and all but 199 of those positions are filled. The state budget, in general terms, and then let me just stop for a second and tell you that one of the things I want to be sure to mention was salute you for your legislative delegation. You know, where I live, we kind of believe the same thing it's apparent that you believe. Is you're going to have some influence in state government. You need to elect some good folks and send them up there and then let them work to gain seniority and work to gain the ability to help you. And you've done that. You've got people, I won't start naming names, but I serve very closely with people like the senators from this area, Senator Sims and Kirk and Burke, and of course Ed Reinders and all the rest of the folks in this delegation. They are very effective, they know how to operate, and they know how to get things done. That's, I think, sometimes a big difference between rural legislation, rural representation, and urban legislation. So, as we work to increase the number of residencies, the state budget for GME has grown from $6.5 million in 2006 to some $9.9 million in fiscal year 2016. That's about a 52% increase in just those 10-year period. Georgia, again, is a growing state that I mentioned earlier, is behind the curve still in medical residents per population. We currently rank 40th in total residents per 100,000 population. That's a rate of 21.8, while the national rate is 36.6. So to do the math, to meet the national average, Georgia would have to add 1,456 residency positions. Just to meet the southeast average of the contiguous states to Georgia, the state needs to add 357 residency positions, and we're on the way to doing that. Our new goal is to add at least 400 new residencies, and we're on a plan to meet that increase to 2,962 by fiscal year 2024. So we're moving right along with that. This year's breakdown in residencies I thought might be interesting to touch on that. In this year, 2016, in the residencies around the state, here's the breakdown on specialties. Family medicine, 83. Internal medicine, 166. Pediatrics, 56. OBGYNs, 26. General surgery, 51. All others, 140. For a grand total of 522, and all the positions were filled. That's the state total now, it's on 2,514. This pressing need for positions in Southwest Georgia is one reason we're so proud of Phoebe Putney's residency program. Presently, 71% of Phoebe's residents are practicing in Georgia today, and I'm told the majority, as was just mentioned earlier, are practicing in rural Georgia. This hospital here blends a primary care orientation of a community hospital with the academic and educational resources of a world-class medical facility. This residency program, I am sure, will be mentioned more times than once today. It was established in 1993 and offers residents a valuable opportunity to develop as a strong clinician capable of delivering high-quality primary care in a setting that would be applicable in any setting at all. We're convinced that these world-class facilities here at Phoebe Putney make this hospital a very desirable location for residents to work and to receive quality training. So, welcome. You have our very best wishes for a successful and productive residency here. And I just want to thank you all for your support of this program and of Phoebe Putney, and for Phoebe Putney and its efforts to bring quality health care to Southwest Georgia. The state pledges to do everything we can to support you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for those words, Senator Hill. We appreciate it. Appreciate you coming here and being with us today. We talked about graduates. We got some people in this room that are going to be graduating here in the next couple of days. Those of y'all that are going to be graduating, please raise your hand. Congratulations to all of you. I'll see you Saturday night at your graduation ceremony. And congratulations to your families. And really, once again, I mentioned the families. People go to medical school, but the family tends to go with them through their support, their effort, and all the things that go along with it. So I can't say enough about our family members that are here with us today. I remember when somebody was talking about whether a person is wealthy, I remember Benjamin Franklin said that the best wealth is health. If you reach into your pocket and figure out how many coins you got, how much of it would you give away if it made sure that you were feeling healthy? And as we sit here all today, there's about 350 folks in the beds above us who are currently in some form of health care need. And so the best wealth is health, and this is part of our contributions to that. Well, I mentioned traditions early, and one of the key traditions that comes every year is the roving and the handing out of pagers to our new residents. We always ask our chief of staff and our chief medical officer to do this ceremony. Ceremonies are always important in life, and this is one of those key things that takes you from being, a graduate of medical school into your residency program. Dr. Ed Vance is our chief of staff. Dr. Vance has a very active practice working with Albany area primary health care, a federally qualified community health center, and I will tell you, the act that Congress made years ago that created federally qualified health centers is probably one of the wisest decisions our Congress ever did, and the program here in Southwest Georgia with Albany area primary health care as a key partner with Phoebe allows us to provide services to people throughout the region, and is an excellent partner and Dr. Vance has been with them a good number of years. Also, joining him is Dr. Steve Kitchen. Dr. Kitchen practices obstetrics and gynecology here in this community. Some of you women may have had him as your doctor. We were able to ultimately lure him away from clinical services into administrative activities a year or so ago, and we're pleased that Dr. Kitchen is our Chief Medical Officer. So gentlemen, if you'll come forward.
Congratulations, you are now residents. Your days as a medical student are over, and yet somehow your days and years of becoming a student of medicine are just now beginning. You now officially have 2 letters behind your name that you own, that signify that you are a doctor of medicine, and yet somehow you still have some years to go before you're a fully trained physician. You are in between, you are in training, you're on a journey. You've gone a long way, and yet you still have many miles before you can sleep. And so, we are here today to bestow upon you 2 of the most important tools of the trade, your pager and your lab coat. Yes, your pager, it's not just an antiquated form of communication that only doctors and drug dealers from the 1980s should use. Your pager is actually your connection to your patient, okay? It's your patient reaching out to you. And so you'll be excited to have your pager at first, and you'll have it in your hand, on your belt, and it won't go off. You'll feel unwanted, you'll feel unneeded, you'll feel sad, you'll look at it every 10 minutes and you'll wonder, is it working, does it need a new battery, what's going on? Eventually you'll get a page, and you'll get a few more pages, you'll get a few more pages. Soon you'll get so many pages, you'll start to cry. And you'll wonder, why is this happening to me out loud? And you'll be tempted to throw it out of your car window driving home. But don't do that. Because remember, that's your connection to your patient. That call is either a nurse calling to tell you that your patient is sick and you know they're sick, is even sicker. It could be a pharmacist calling to discuss an antibiotic dosing with you. It could be a colleague calling you to tell you that your patient needs surgery. Or it could be even another colleague calling to ask your help with their patient. It could be a family member calling, asking, grandmama's sick, what do I do with her? Or it could be your patient themselves calling and asking for your help directly. So don't look at your pager and roll your eyes, don't be dismissive. Know that that's your pager, your patient calling, and they need your help. Your lab coat, you'll be pleased to know that you'll get a full-length, full-fledged lab coat, no longer the short, diminutive lab coat that you wore as a medical student. This will be a full one. And you'll have plenty of pockets to put your stethoscope, you can put your iPad. Back in my day, we actually put books in our lab coats. Yes, books with pages and words and letters, like Harriet Lane for pediatrics, Washington Manual for internal medicine, the Sanford Guide for antibiotics. But all of that will be in your iPad, don't worry. So if you're like me, you'll put even more stuff, and eventually your coat will get heavy and heavy and heavier and heavier. And you'll eventually want to take it off as you get more and more knowledge, more and more experience, and eventually you'll be too cool to wear a lab coat like your senior residents. But don't worry, you're always going to wear that lab coat. It's never going to be off of you, whether it's on you literally or figuratively, because that lab coat represents the weight of knowing that you're responsible for another person's life. And so, as you do get more and more knowledge and more experience, do not become puffed up, do not become prideful, do not become arrogant, because if you do, your patients will know. And a wise doctor once told me, your patient won't care about how much you know until they know about how much you care. So the first rule of medicine, despite common knowledge that the Hippocratic Oath says it's first do no harm, and the first rule of medicine is to care about your patient. So always remember that. So with that, pass it on to Dr. Kitchen, because his motto and his mantra to us is keep the best interests of the patient's needs in the forefront of your mind for any decision you make regarding their care. Thank you. Dr. Kitchen.
And thank you for those very, very safe, Dr. Vance. They're just as applicable now as they were 100 years ago. You know, I know there's a great sense of excitement, enthusiasm, and pride today, as well as there should be, and I know that's felt on the part of these fine young physicians, their families, the Phoebe family, and our community at large. But I'm also going to tell you, as a physician who's had the privilege of practicing in this community for over 25 years, I also feel a great sense of hope and a great sense of optimism. And I'm going to tell you that's because I had the opportunity to visit with all these fine young physicians yesterday. And so, you know, I had the opportunity to hear a little bit about their backgrounds, but I also had the opportunity to gain a little insight into what their interests are, what attracted them to our programs in Southwest Georgia, and in particularly what attracted them to a career in family medicine. And apart from being extremely qualified from an academic standpoint, I want to reiterate the fact that under the guidance of Dr. Frederick, the family medicine faculty and staff, they were chosen from a highly, highly selective group. But also, you know, they're here because of their character and their interpersonal characteristics. I heard their testimonies in terms of what attracted them, and I will tell you this is a group that truly has a commitment to service, a commitment to community, and a commitment to their patients at large. So I think I will encourage you again, get involved in our communities. There are boundless opportunities to do so, and that opportunity to give back is one you will never, never regret. And so with that, again, we welcome you and just delighted that you're here in our community.
I'm going to start calling for each resident, starting with Stephen Daniel. Here's your pager, Stephen. Next, we'll have Laura DeSimone. Next, we'll have Theresa Kowalski. Should be saying doctor in front of everybody's name. Dr. Kowalski. Maria Kyriacou. There we go. Urban New Lab Coach. Joseph Mariano. Congratulations, Dr. Mariano. And last but not least, Dr. Serena Miller. Congratulations, Dr. Miller. Congratulations to all of the new residents.
Good looking group, right there. You know, sometimes we also have folks who couldn't get here their first year, but found out a way to get here their second year. And this year we have a second year who's also joined us, Kim Ann Dang. Right up here, y'all give her She's a California girl that I think went to New York, and they said New York, Albany, Georgia, maybe it was snowing, and people weren't all that nice, but we're glad you're here also, and thank you for being here. You know, people sometimes wonder about the relationship between medicine and business, and there is a relationship between medicine and business, and it's not necessarily just the business of medicine as much as it is the importance of having a good healthcare system to support what's going on in a local community. I listened to a fascinating presentation from, if y'all are wondering what's going on with the page, the other residents up here are calling their numbers. Y'all hold on for just a couple seconds. But I heard the Dean of the University of Georgia Agriculture Department give an interesting presentation down here, and they said, you know, there are two Georgias, and you got all them folks that are on top of each other up in Atlanta, you know, and they're spending all their money building more roads and this and that. And folks in Alpharetta got no idea that South Georgia's here, and don't know just about all the great things we have. But he says, you know, just wait your time, because Southwest Georgia's got it all. He said, you got an abundance of water, as long as we keep the people from up north from sticking a straw in it and trying to take it back up north. He says, you got great sunshine. You got one of the greatest growing seasons in the world. You got good dirt. Now, I never heard anybody just say that. It said, Southwest Georgia got great dirt. You have good-natured folks, and our goal is also to have an abundance of well-trained physicians. So that goes into economic development. I'd always heard that a new physician in the town can create anywhere from $1 million to $1.5 million in economic development. And recently, when the folks in Moultrie were bragging about what they were doing, you know, back home, if you've done it, it ain't bragging. You know, so they were bragging about what they were doing. And they said for every new doctor, there's 14 jobs created. So this is kind of the job creation business also. So there's a lot of important things, and this is my lead up to asking Ed Newsom, the 2016 chairman of the board of the Albany Chamber of Commerce. Ed was born and raised here in Albany, went to the Dougherty County school system, also attended and graduated from Georgia Southern with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Business Administration. Ed came home to work in the family business, which is Albany Air Conditioning and Heating, which his father founded way back in 1949. Someone once told me that the South wouldn't be what it is and Georgia wouldn't be what it is without Coca-Cola and air conditioning. So it's a big part of what happens. Ed has two grown children, Clint and Krista. Clint is the third generation in the family business and now employs 65 people. I will tell you, our local business community has put their arms around our residents every year since we started. And Ed, who's married to Pam, a 35-year educator. She's been educated for 35 years. She isn't 35 years old. Make sure I've mentioned that she looks like it. Anyways, Ed's going to come forward on behalf of the business community, make some comments, and I'll also make a presentation.
Thank you, Joel. On behalf of the President and the City of Barbara Rivera Home, our Board of Directors, and our 800-plus members, it is my pleasure to welcome 6 new residency doctors to Albany, Georgia. Here's what you'll find in our community. treat our neighbors like neighbors. We have a great quality of life here, it's second to none. We enjoy a low cost of living and affordable housing. Albany has many things to offer. Our natural resource enjoyment is water. We have the Flint River running right down through the middle of town, with a biking trail and a walking trail that extends for miles. Radiant Springs, Cheat Hall Wild Animal Park, Flint River Aquariums, Montesquieu Heritage Foundation, Albany Civil Rights Museum, and rivers and streams at your doorstep so that you can step out and enjoy a good quality of life. Many fine restaurants to choose from so you can enjoy a night out with friends and family. Most of all, we have a laid-back lifestyle. We're not in the hustle and the bustle of the big city. I can promise you without a doubt one day that you will not spend your days and hours fighting traffic to get to where you need to go. As you turn a new page in your life, we're excited to have you as part of the Albany family and the Phoebe family. You could not have picked a better place to live and to work. Phoebe is known for world-class medical care throughout Georgia and the southeastern United States. We understand the valuable role that you play in our community, bringing your talents to care for the healthcare needs and the well-being of our citizens of our great city. We're looking forward to seeing you and getting to know you in the days ahead. Now for the family and friends that I saw stand up, know that your loved ones are safe and comfortable in Albany. It's a place they will be well taken care of. And we look forward to getting to know you as well when you visit, and I hope you visit often. Now you notice there's 6 wagons in front of you there. I know y'all been sitting up here just wondering all this wagons. You're going to find that this is a lot of things that are of local flair. There's a lot of things that are made here that are in these wagons. But this is just a token of our appreciation for you coming to Albany and for you to have something that you can remember us by and to enjoy in the days ahead. You can always use that wagon for a lot of things. Enjoy that. I would like to thank our chamber staff for putting these together for us and our sponsors that actually made this happen. And I hope y'all will enjoy it. I also would like to thank Joel Warnick and Phoebe for being a great partner of the chamber and our wonderful community. Thank you.
Well spoken, Ed. Thank you, and to all the members of the chamber who are here in the audience, y'all raise your hands just so we know the business community is here, and God bless you for being part of this support. I will tell you, when we started the program, we could have gotten most of those things in a grocery sack. And then it became a backpack, then it became a suitcase. Next year, they may be wheeling Ford F-150s in here. I never can tell. I asked somebody earlier if they still put the Miller Brewery coupon in there, and somebody said, yeah. So, anyways, all of the people involved are there, and we appreciate it. A couple thank yous before we kind of conclude here. Some of them are here, not perhaps many, but know that we have a full-time faculty, but a lot of the teaching goes on by our volunteer medical staff members who volunteer their time to be part of the faculty, and a lot of the in-person training takes place with our volunteer medical staff members, and we appreciate the time that they give. Recently, the state of Georgia even passed the tax credit to help them for that time, which is very wise thinking also. Becky Owen, stand up, Becky, so we can just make you blush for a second. Becky kind of is the behind the scenes over here and all the things that and thank you, Becky, for keeping us all well organized and the rest of it also. Just a little personal note, I've had 2 primary care doctors since I've been in Albany, Georgia. I've been here 29 years. Dr. Crimmins sitting right back there. And when Dr. Crimmins retired, he turned me over to one of his residents that he had trained, Dr. Bill Fricks, right up there. I will also tell you, that's where I get my care. Where my baby girl was born, Doc was right there in the delivery room. Everybody ought to have a relationship with a primary care doctor. If You don't have one? Guess what? Pick you out one. So we're real proud of this, as you can well tell. And it was mentioned that we're building a housing project predominantly for our medical student friends that are coming from Augusta, but also for residents and for pharmacy students. It's about a $7 million project. We've been blessed to raise through philanthropy more than half of that cost. We encouraged the Lieutenant Governor when he was here, you know, if they were able to find a nickel or two that might fall off the money truck, we don't need the whole sack of money, just a penny here and there helps along the way. And would help you understand that we're moving right along, and anytime you want to see progress, just go to the corner of 4th and Jackson, and they're digging dirt and making dust fly, and by this time next year, there are going to be people who will leave this ceremony and go over there and put their head on the pillow that night. And that's going to be a great accomplishment. And one more way, that people in Southwest Georgia, we may be away from the hustle and bustle, but at Senator Hill, we're sometimes raising our hand a little bit higher and shouting a little bit louder and making a little bit noise, but it's all for the positive, make sure people up there don't forget that we're down here and we're part of Georgia also. Well, I'm coming to the end of my comments, and I look through the audience and see many people that are here for a lot of different reasons, and we appreciate each and every one of those. Please, for family members, you heard Ed say it well, we're going to take care of your kids. And if there's something we need to do, call us up. We'll make sure we'll look in on them. If they haven't called you lately, let us know. We'll make sure that they give you a shot. We're going to feed them. Most of them come back a couple pounds heavier than when they got here. And we're glad to do that, but we're excited about it. But as you leave here today, and when you think about what you saw and what you did, just know that this is what makes this part of the state special. And this is why it's a place where thousands live and millions wish they could.